so thrilled to have Roxanne back again. She did this for us last year, and as soon as it was January again, I got a hold of her and I said, "Hey, you want to do this for us again?" And she said yes. She has been in the travel industry since the last century, 1996 in particular. That's the same year I moved to Tucson. She's visited 50 countries so far, although this is a year old, so it's probably not accurate, and holds certifications as a specialist for Africa, the islands of Tahiti, Fiji, Australia, and New Zealand, as well as Great Britain. She loves Europe as well as the South Pacific. She's visited the UK and Italy multiple times, as well as Australia, Greece, France, Germany, Spain, the Caribbean, Galapagos, Canada, and Central America. So I don't know. I think that covers every place we could go. She has specialized training as a master cruise consultant and Gulf vacation specialist, and she looks forward to helping all her clients make the world their playground. So, Roxanne, thank you very much. And at this point, I'll be quiet.
Thank you, Gayla. It's a pleasure to be here with you all today. Um, I can talk travel all day long, but we will keep this somewhat condensed for everyone's time, out of respect for that. But I wanted to share with you today some information that you might not actually think about when you're planning your travel and talk a little bit about the different styles of travel, especially solo travel, which is a growing segment of the industry, and then share with you some tips for planning your next vacation and how to maximize those opportunities and things to think about that would be important, especially in light of everything going on in the world today. So we'll go ahead and get started. So when we talk about style, everybody has a style, right? We all have a style in which we like to build or decorate our homes. And we all have our own personal fashion style, or at least we used to back in the day before it became kind of a very comfortable anything goes routine. So, what inspires you to travel? I want everyone to stop for a minute and think about what is it that actually inspires you to travel, that when you do, how is it you're creating your trips? What is your travel style? And this is a question that the industry, on a broad brush, thinks about. And they talk about, different categories and planning for different itineraries, and different companies within the industry look at all of these segments. So, we've got the adventuresome clients. We've got those who like culinary, food and wine. We've got families. There's sports, especially golf, but people who like to attend sporting events, concerts, and special events. The beach goers for the sun and sand, and of course, solo can go into any of those categories. And then growing in popularity, we've got health and wellness that we'll talk a little bit about, religious and spiritual, literary and jet setting, which has become a thing over the last number of years with all of these TV shows and movies filmed in remote locations. Rail journeys, which, is basically in essence land cruising. And then ecotourism, positive impact travel that ties into all of this, as well as up and coming astrotourism. And astrotourism is something I've been diving into lately a lot. And I'll go into why I'm actually attending an event on that this evening. So there are so many choices when you look at traveling. So when you are deciding what you want to do, how do you like to travel? Are you a person that likes to cruise and be on the water, or is that just not your thing and you are not getting off dry land? If you do cruise, are you going on ocean or are you going on river cruises, or maybe a combination of both? If you travel by land, how do you like to do that? Do you like to be independent and freestyle, or do you like to go as part of an escorted group, or maybe something that combines a little bit of both? Are you a person who won't get in a plane, so you're doing a driving trip, or are you going to fly or go by rail? Are you somebody that likes to stay and play, park yourself in one spot and kind of spoke out and do things around where you are? Or are you somebody who likes to have a full itinerary? I've got clients who just need to be on the go constantly and see as much as they possibly can when they get to a destination. Another thing to think about is weather. Do you like warm destinations? Are you sun and sand and beach and warm? Or do you like cold destinations? I've got a couple of clients who specifically are looking for opportunities to go to the cold and see snow because they live in Arizona and they don't ever get to see that here very often. Um, do you like to go peak season, off season, shoulder season? It depends what your schedule is, where you're going, and if your family dictates when you can travel. Um, where do you like to stay? You know, there's opportunities for boutique hotels that are smaller, independently owned sometimes, little inns that give you a sense of place. Or are you somebody that needs to have that coffee machine and that 24/7 fitness center in your room? So we're looking at more of a more modern mainstream type of hotel that puts you city center with all the conveniences. And then there's budget. Are we looking at 3, 4, 5 star? Where do you like to be? And does it matter on any trip, or is there a theme to how you travel? And one thing that I'd like to mention today too is that all of the photos that you see in the presentation, except for maybe 2 slides, are my own photos. So I will talk about stories from some of what you're seeing as we go along. One of them on hotels being this picture down here in the center. This is probably one of the nicest rooms I've ever stayed in. I was on a business trip in December, attending the International Luxury Travel Mart over in Cannes, France. And we stayed in a lovely little boutique hotel before conference, and they gave us this magnificent room. So when you think about traveling, there's so many different things to consider. So let's get started. For those of you who do like to be adventurous, what kind of adventure do you enjoy? Are you somebody interested in going on safari? Wildlife gets your attention? Maybe doing polar exploration, going to the Galapagos, Machu Picchu, seeing the ruins in Mexico, or Sicily, the ruins at Agrigento. There's so many different things that you can do. Going to the Australian outback in the Kimberley region. Anybody who likes to do a walking tour, there's so many walking tours these days, whether it's here in the US or overseas. If you're doing a walking or a biking tour, we consider that soft adventure. And then even if you go to Alaska and you're doing an Alaska cruise, but if you get in that helicopter, if you go to the top of that glacier, if you go on a dog sled ride, we do consider that adventure. So you might have a little bit of that in you that you didn't even realize. And when I first started in this business, I had no idea how adventuresome I would become. Because you see that little bridge over there between the rocks at Three Sisters outside of Sydney, up in the Hunter Valley, or excuse me, up in the Blue Mountains. Yeah, I did that hike. So these are things that you don't even think about, but might really appeal to you. And last year, I'm happy to say, because Africa is a place that's near and dear to my heart, Kenya was voted the friendliest destination in 2025 by Travel and Leisure, which I think says a whole lot about the destination and about the people and about the experiences that they have created that await you. And while I was at this travel conference in December, one of the things that we did is we met with a lot of different tourism bureaus and visitors, uh, guides and hoteliers and tour guides from all over the world. And it was absolutely fantastic. And I got to meet with people from Saudi Arabia, and that was the most surreal conversation I think I've had in a long time, hearing what they're doing to try and promote and improve tourism. So hopefully, when this conflict in the Middle East is over, I think Saudi is going to make a real play for the North American market in the years to come. And it should be quite interesting, to say the least. Um, but yeah, lots of opportunities. So if you look at a map and look at the world, where will your next adventure take you? And when we adventure, when we travel, one of the things that we always like is the food, right? What is the best thing about going to Europe? For me, it's the food. I remember a trip that we made years ago. We were in Amsterdam for the day on a cruise, and we sat and had lunch at this little cafe in the middle of Dam Square. And I will tell you something, it was the best iced tea I had ever had. It was a muddled iced tea. It was the first time I had a drink like that. And this is how I remember a lot of places that I go is by the food or by the drink. So there are so many opportunities to work into your itinerary. You can do specifically culinary tours and wine tours, but you can do market tours when you're away. There are places that offer mixology classes, cooking classes, pub crawls, street food tours. There's an entire company dedicated to arranging appointments for you to go eat with a local family and see how they cook, see how they live, how they shop, help make the food, and then be able to sit down with the family and have dinner. What a great opportunity is that. And if you're someone that likes to do multi-gen trips, you've got kids and grandkids and families, and you like to be able to travel with them, there are certain things to think about when you're planning that travel. So when you're looking at that, you have to think about your logistics. If you've got family all over the country, what are you going to do? Is there an older person that you're going to go who can't travel so far, so you all go there to meet with them? Or are you going to meet in the middle so everybody is, traveling a certain distance? How do you want to set that up? When you look at traveling, what's the most convenient depending upon how many people do you have? Do you have 6 people or 16 people? How are you going to make everybody happy? And what are the ages of everybody that's involved? So maybe you want to think about doing a cruise that gives everybody an opportunity to have a little bit of what they want, and it's fairly inclusive. Or maybe you want to book a house rental or go to an all-inclusive resort on the beach and the kids can run around all day and everybody gets to drink as much as they want and you don't have to worry about it. Or a dude ranch, if you want to have a Western adventure and get out of the city. What is it that makes you happy? What will appeal to all of the people involved? And what kind of activity level do you need to consider about? Because you need to keep the younger ones active and burn off that energy so they don't make everybody crazy. But you also need to consider, do we have people who are, over a certain age that might have physical limitations or can't hike as far because they've had knee surgery or back surgery recently? What is it that we need to accommodate for that? And how do you take that into account? And when you look at doing that travel, does everyone have a passport? Do you need passports for where you're going, or are you going to keep it local? And local could also include Puerto Rico because you don't need a passport to go to the US Virgin Islands or Puerto Rico. So those could be options. And I just want to point out the photo of those little girls down there. That was when we were in Cuba and we were wandering through a square and they saw a group of Americans and they all had to come and practice their English and dance for us because they had just gotten out of their dance class and they wanted to show off. It was the cutest thing I've ever seen. And the moms were just hysterical watching all of this take place. So when you're thinking about booking an all-inclusive, typically, um, if you're going in that direction with the family, you're thinking Mexico, Dominican, Caribbean, because there aren't really any all-inclusives in the US. But now there is an option in Sandpiper, Florida. Voco by International Hotel Group is a 335 room property near Palm Beach. It just went through a $50 million transformation. It used to be the old Club Med, and they have completely redesigned this property. It's got 7 restaurants and bar concepts. It's got a great food program led by a Michelin star restaurant chef, and they've got pools and pickleball and tennis courts and fitness programs and kid programs and entertainment. And you can see it's not overly fancy, it's pretty basic, but it provides a great opportunity for an all-inclusive within the US if you're thinking of going. So for any of you who are into sports and special events, this is a growing segment of the industry by far. Are you somebody that likes to go to NASCAR? Do you like to go to the golf tournaments? Do you like to go to concerts? I've had several clients over the last year, following the Eras tour for Taylor Swift, and we were booking them in Miami and in England and in different places around the world because they had to fit this in and they wanted to go do this. For me, the Chelsea Flower Show, if you're somebody who's into gardens, any of the flower shows over in Europe are pretty amazing, I must say. So there's lots of opportunities, and the companies that package these getaways are starting to put together really neat little packages for people who travel based on sports and entertainment. So there's one company in particular that's combining soccer with West End theater shows in London, and you can buy that pre-packaged, and it really makes it convenient. And for the golfers in the group, just, so many different choices to look at for golfing around the world. Yes, we can golf right here in Arizona and we've got great courses. But let's face it, during peak season, they're really hard to get on and they are really expensive. So there are lots of opportunities to be able to package golf across the world and work that into your vacation, whether it's one round or you go for an entire golf vacation. Same thing with different events, be it NASCAR, Formula One, going to the Olympics, going to the Kentucky Derby, um, jazz fests, Christmas markets, whatever it might be that excites you, there are opportunities out there for you. So, sun and sand is, a great way to spend time at the beach to just relax and chill. And yes, that picture in the middle with the heart is real. I caught that on a sandbar in North Carolina. So I was really happy about that. But what is it that you like when you're looking for a beach vacation? What's your style? Do you want to be right on the beach, beachfront, or just maybe a coastal location that you can get to the beach? Do you prefer pink sand, white sand, black sand? Does it make a difference? Do you want to go to an all-inclusive where you're basically going to sit and stay in one place for the most part unless you do a day trip? Or do you want freedom to go out and explore on your own and dine and shop around town so you experience the area that you're in? Are you looking for adults only? Or are you okay with being in a family-friendly property? And keep in mind, budget might dictate that as well, because adults only are always more expensive than a family-friendly property. But you get a lot of perks in that. And how active do you want to be? All hotels, especially the ones in Hawaii, as well as the all-inclusive, do have activities and programs that they put together for their clients to be able to participate in different programs, whether it's mixology, wine tasting, food tasting, markets, um, activities in the local area, basket weaving, whatever it might be, lei making, flower arranging, depending what country you're in. So all of those programs will be there. Take advantage of those because most of them are free or have a very small charge. So these are things that you want to make sure you're taking time to include and enjoy when you're there. And what do you do on a rainy day? If you get a rainy day at the beach, how are you going to spend it? Make sure you pack that deck of cards. You can probably go get board games or a book from the library, do a spa appointment, but plan accordingly and know that it might rain while you're there and have something to do and something to keep the kids involved and active if you're bringing kids along. And remember that seasonality and location will impact your rates. So depending the time of year that you go and how busy the destination is, just keep that in mind when you're planning your budget. So some of the top destinations this year, overall in the Caribbean, St. Bart's, Aruba, St. Martin, and the Bahamas all came in top spots for different reasons. For romance and luxury, obviously Bora Bora, the Maldives, and the Seychelles. In Europe, I thought this was interesting. Sardinia came in with one of the best beaches in Europe, as did Crete and Vis Island in Croatia. Croatia has some wonderful beaches, and it is a growing in popularity destination. And then in North America, some of the traditional players, Maui always, although they've had the rains lately, but they are recovering. The latest updates that I've had out of Hawaii, the islands are recovering. I would stay away from the North Shore on Oahu, although Turtle Island is open and operating, but they are doing cleanup at the moment. So if any of you are headed to Hawaii in the next week or so, just be aware cleanup operations are going on in some places, but they are open and operating just fine. So health and wellness is wrapped into almost everything that we do these days, it seems. And there are a lot of opportunities for how you can interpret this category of travel. So used to be you'd go to a wellness spa like Miraval or Canyon Ranch, and you'd go get pampered, and you'd go to the spa, and they'd do your diet, and you'd have some exercise. And these days, it's going well beyond that. They're looking at longevity and data-driven health and well-being at some of these spas. I've got a client who went to a Swiss health resort. And now she's come back and she wants to go again this year. And they do all kinds of sleep analysis, and they do blood work, and they do analysis based on your biology. And it was just fascinating to listen to her talk about what they're doing for these markers, trying to help people live longer and improve your well-being. But a simple version of this is just a digital detox. We are all on call 24/7 with our phones, with social media, with working, with everything in our lives. We're all tied to computers in one way or another, right? For those of you who are not, I applaud you and I am proud of you. So just getting out into nature, going to a wilderness retreat or a mountain retreat can just be a great getaway to reset your mind. I have always said, travel refreshes your body, relaxes your mind, and nourishes your spirit. And just getting away to a natural location can do that for you, especially a place that doesn't have really great Wi-Fi. Just disconnect for a little bit. And then there are cultural and traditional healings. If you're going to India or Thailand or some of the places in Asia, and I know National Geographic on their TV shows have featured some of these places to go, and people are looking at that and wanting to do that. And what we call slow travel and gentle fitness is perfect for anyone who has had back surgery, knee surgery, or is, aging and just trying to stay in good shape. Just slowing down a little bit, just stretching, just doing some of these things in these locations can really be beneficial for you. So where are some of the best spa destinations? Some of the greater ones this year have been ranked as, of course, Switzerland, Arizona, especially in Tucson. We have some great spas down there. Costa Rica, Florida has some great ones. Thailand, different mountain retreats up in Montana and Wyoming. Scandinavia, always known for their spa and health and wellness. And then there are some resorts in Oregon that ranked really high as well this year. Now, religious and spiritual travel, as people are coming back into faith, and we are hearing this over and over again, that people are starting to turn back to wanting something to believe in greater than themselves these days, whatever that might be and whatever that looks like for you. Israel always led the way in religious and spiritual travel for both Jews and Christians. But while Israel has been unavailable, other destinations have been popping up and becoming more focused on, which I think is fantastic because it builds and expands this category of travel. So in Spain, you've got Santiago de Compostela and the Camino de Santiago, Montserrat, Sagrada Familia in Barcelona. Italy has more options than just Rome and the Vatican. There's the Duomos in Milan and Florence, Padua, Assisi. The whole area based on the Cathedral for St. Francis of Assisi is pretty amazing. Loretto, just so many different places to go. Greece, in the footsteps of Paul the Apostle, there are some great tours led by different escorted groups that follow that if you're interested in these types of things. But Turkey also is really well known. You've got Hagia Sophia and the great mosques. You've got the seven churches of Revelation, the House of the Virgin Mary, so many different ruins and places to visit. France always is known. You've got Lourdes, you've got all of the saints' history and ours, the shrine of Saint Teresa of Lisieux, so many different places. Notre Dame is open again, the cathedral at Mont Saint-Michel up in Normandy. So you can branch out and get away from the crowds with some of these other places to go and still have a fabulous experience, learn history, see some beautiful, inspirational sights. And if you're not into Christian religion and you're into something else, then obviously there are some great spiritual retreats in India. Japan, they celebrate Buddha's birthday every May, and it's a great festival. That photo over on the screen with all of the colorful balloons, they were just getting ready to set up. That was in Busan, South Korea, actually. And we were over there when we went to Japan, and they were getting ready to set up for Buddha's birthday. And it's a massive festival that they do. And then, of course, the Hindu temples and spiritual sites throughout Thailand and Cambodia and Laos just make for some great, great experiences. So another thing that has popped up over the years is jet setting or set jetting, as we call it, and literary travel. So many great movies and TV shows that have been filmed in remote locations and beautiful locations that have inspired and sparked travel. I remember seeing something a couple years ago, Emily in Paris, and the neighborhood where they film it, and the residents were putting up signs saying Emily is not here because so many people were traveling to Paris wanting to look for that. And little did I know, I am not a set jetter. I don't specifically travel for these locations, but I did end up wandering across several of them along the way. So we've got on a Caribbean cruise, we went to Guadeloupe where they filmed the Death in Paradise series, and we got to see some of that. And of course, Downton Abbey, the famous Downton Abbey. We went to Highclere Castle, and it is amazing what they can do with a wide angle lens to make those rooms look so big and so large. It was really interesting. And for anybody who watches the PBS series Father Brown, we went to the little town where they shoot some of the series when we were in the Cotswolds a couple years ago. It was just absolutely beautiful and amazing. And everyone knows Outlander. Scotland tourism has risen so much over the last 7 or 8 years because of this. It's amazing what pop culture can do for travel. So maybe you don't like to fly. Maybe you like to take a train. There are some awesome train experiences around the world that you can participate in. And a lot of these are higher end trains, the Gone through Australia, Rovos and Blue Rail in Africa, the Maharaja Express in India, um, the Venice Simpleton Orient Express, the Hiram Bingham to Peru, to Machu Picchu, but there are also other trains that go up to Machu Picchu, so you don't have to do the high-end experience. Some great options throughout the UK. The Flambergen Railway is amazingly scenic, and we have clients who will go to Norway and do a cruise and stay on just to be able to spend time and experience that train because it adds so much to the experience and it's so scenic. But we've got better options even closer to home. We've got throughout Canada the Rocky Mountaineer and Via Rail. You've got the Amtrak California Zephyr up the coast, and Starlight Rail and different opportunities. And especially if you snowbird or you're in the Chicago area or on the East Coast, there's so many options that Amtrak offers. Now, the sleeper cars are not great, especially if you're 6 foot tall. They don't work really well, but they are there and they are available. What I think is neat is that Rocky Mountaineer expanded the Canyon Spirit from Denver to Salt Lake. So it's a 3 to 4 day little getaway that we can do out here in the West. And it's just a kind of neat, beautiful scenic through some parts of the national parks out there that you don't see unless you're driving in and deep into the parks. So this goes around the other way. So some neat opportunities for rail and showing that it is taking off along those lines. There's a company called the Legendary Train Company in Europe that is starting up, and they are going to be expanding and launching some new train journeys in 26, 27, and into 28. So I think that's something to watch for if you're someone who enjoys rail travel. And then solo travel. All of the things that we've talked about today, you can do these solo. And the travel industry is starting to understand that this is a building segment that is not going away. By 2030, solo travelers are expected to contribute about $1 trillion in sales to the travel industry. Um, it is interesting how much they are paying attention to it and starting to design pricing and product for solo travelers. And it's time. I'm happy to see this happening. So, without, the reason that you do this is because either you don't have a significant other or a spouse, or they don't like to travel, and you don't want to wait on other people. You want to get out in the world and see what's going on and do the things that make you truly happy. Freedom to follow a personal schedule or meet new people and become social with people from different areas. And just your mental well-being, the thing that it does for you. Travel is so good for your health. So it focuses on cultural immersion and nature is where a lot of these trips are going to. And yes, it is dominated primarily by women driving the market, but I will tell you, I have a number of men who travel solo that have either lost their travel companions or never had a travel companion, and they're traveling with their friends or with, other people or just by themselves to go have the experience. Now, it's true, a lot of solo travelers are over the age of 55, and they do prefer going on a guided tour or some sort of combination of guided tour and independent travel. So this is what the statistics are telling us. And it is on the rise. So trending destinations for solo travels, especially for women, there's a company called Goway that they're focusing on France, Brazil, Spain, New Zealand, and Jordan, but that's been put on hold for a little bit. Tauk Travel, which is known for their luxury escorted travel for years, I mean, almost a century in business. They are now offering solo travel savings in 2026, including reduced or eliminated single supplements. And they're waiving the single supplement on Category 1, which are the window cruises on their river cruises in Europe, which encompasses about 250 departures. So I think that's really interesting. But one thing solo travelers need to know is you do need to plan in advance, because if you do want to get a solo cabin on a cruise ship or on a tour, when you see it released is the time to book it, because they do go fast. Now, there's a company called Riviera Cruises that is building an entire river ship just for solo travelers, and it will launch next year. But they also hold at least 4 cabins on every river sailing that they do for solos with no supplement. And I think that is awesome. And I am actually leaving a week from Monday to go do my first Riviera cruise. We're going to do Paris to Normandy, and I will get to experience it firsthand. So I will be able to report back to you how well it's operated. But they are a company out of the UK. And so I am looking forward to that style of service and refreshment and food. And the fact that they are really making a play for solo travelers is encouraging. Now, for the expedition people and those who do like the adventure, even Cork Expeditions, who focuses on polar travel, Arctic and Antarctic, had a limited time offer this year for solo travelers, saving them up to $10,000 on Arctic voyages. That's a pretty significant investment in this market for them to make. And there are companies that focus on just women-only tours. Companies like Insight, who have multiple locations priced for solo travel and women only with women guides, women bus drivers. The whole thing is just a really nice experience. And Colette Tours is also doing the same thing. They're putting a focus on Paris, London, Greece, Crete, Morocco, some of the neat destinations that you can go to and experience travel. Come on. So for those of you who are wondering where can you go this year and what are safe places to go to, because Gayla and I were talking about that before we started. Um, right now, everything is open in Europe and operating, and they've downgraded some of the travel advisories in Europe just last week. So Canada, the Caribbean, Europe, Japan, all still very good, safe places to go to. This list was published in early 2026. So United Arab Emirates is a little bit on hold at the moment, but these are some great destinations to go to. And when this conflict is resolved, UAE will be a great place to go again because they are very safe and they take safety extremely important. So positive impact travel and ecotourism, for those of you who are globally minded, is another category that we like to focus on. And this is also something that you can do as a solo traveler. The World Travel and Tourism Council estimates an increase in this type of travel and a decrease in global emissions, which shows the industry is moving towards sustainability. Many hotels are now going to having refillable water stations, so you can bring your own water bottle or they'll give you a water bottle. They're eliminating single-use plastics. There is a cruise ship that just launched that is going 100% hydrogen power. So it is something that the industry is well aware of, and they are trying to make great strides. And I think it's important. But little things that you do when you travel really do make a difference. Understand that you are going into someone else's hometown, whether it's here in the US or overseas. Understand that you are going someplace different from what you're used to. And how are you going to treat that? Be respectful of the important sites, be respectful of their religious sites, be respectful of their festivals and their celebrations that they do if you encounter one. Travel is about learning other cultures and understanding other cultures and expanding our minds, not going into their destination and saying, hey, I'm American, do it my way. So you want to expand your mind and be respectful and understand what you're doing. And if you learn even a little bit of the language, just a few words, it shows them that you care enough to try and they will treat you so much better. Especially, everybody says France is unfriendly, but if you just know a few words and you try and you're polite, they will bend over backwards for you. And I can testify to that because I do not speak French, but I am about to go on my third trip to France. And every time I have been there, somehow we find a way to communicate, and it always works out really well. And translation apps on your phone, use the technology that we've got for good. Use it to get a translation app if you're traveling, and support your local craftsmen when you travel. If you're buying something and you're going into another country, there's also an organization that I'll talk about in a couple of minutes that you can make contributions to for local travel. But Helsinki, we talked about Scandinavia earlier. Helsinki topped the list as the world's most sustainable city. 99% of the rooms of hotels with more than 50% of rooms in Helsinki are environmentally certified. They actually have a process they go through for environmental performance, the supply chains they use, their management systems, and their social sustainability. So I call it being a conscious traveler. Many tour operators offer a give back program. So when you book a tour with G Adventures or the travel company or, Colette or anybody else, some of them all have give back programs that they are investing money in the communities that you're visiting, especially in third world countries, be it Africa, South America, Central America, where they're donating. to those communities to help women-only businesses uh, get more sustainable and more viable. Or it might be they're donating to schoolrooms and computers and setting up classrooms or helping with water systems. So there's a number of programs out there that you may not even be aware that you're contributing to, and you're doing part of that. And it should just make you feel really good when you do these things. If you want to do a carbon offset and plant a tree, there are numerous companies out there that you can use to do that online. You can just look it up and they will do carbon offsets, and you can offset that plane ride that you're taking if you're concerned about it. The company that I wanted to reference is Pack with a Purpose, specifically connecting travelers and destinations. So if you want to pack in your suitcase some crayons or some pencils or some baby aspirin or whatever it might be that people can't get in other communities. You know, you think about Costa Rica, there's so many places, if you're going to Costa Rica, so much they can't get that we have here. You can go to Pack for a Purpose, pack a little bag, and they will have a list of places within that particular destination that you can drop it off and make your contribution. I think that's really neat. And then Travel Elevates is an organization that we belong to and support that gives grants to these organizations and businesses around the world to help them develop. So I talked earlier about astrotourism. This is a real growing segment in the industry for those of you who enjoy the night skies. And I know, depending where you're located, but specifically in Tucson, there are some great dark areas down there. But I live in Fountain Hills, which is a designated dark sky community. And astrotourism is a growing segment, especially this year, not only wanting to go out and see the northern lights and the aurora borealis, but with all of the eclipses that we have this year. August 12 will be a total solar eclipse, and it'll be visible in Spain and Iceland and Greenland and some of the northern destinations. And a lot of the cruise lines are specifically offering itineraries to take advantage of these. And the solar eclipse is going to be followed by a lunar eclipse. So lots of opportunities to be able to look to the sky, understand what's going on, and see what's happening around the world. And I'm actually going to be developing an entire presentation on astrotourism that I hope to launch next year. So some tips for planning your next destination, because whatever your travel style is and wherever you decide to go, things that you want to consider. When you're thinking about your location, think about what is the flight time? Are you going to be able to make that flight? Make sure you're aware of customs and societal norms for your destination. If you're going into Asia, or Indochina, understand what it is that you need to do. And make sure you're checking the entry requirements, because these days, so many countries where you just needed a passport now need an electronic travel authorization. It's no longer just Australia and Brazil and New Zealand. There are a number of places, and they're not visas. They're just, you have to go online at least 3 days before travel and have it in place, and it automatically attaches to your passport. Europe is going to be doing this for the Schengen countries, but they're not going to start it until fourth quarter of this year. It has been delayed numerous times. So just be aware that if you're going to the UK, you need to get it now, because the UK is not part of the Schengen bloc anymore since Brexit. But Europe will be launching this in fourth quarter of this year, and we'll keep tabs on how that's coming along. But what are your logistics? If it's a long flight, do you want to break up that flight into a stopover somewhere? Do you need to have a red-eye flight? Um, are there luggage restrictions for your flight, especially if you're doing, maybe a big plane to get to where you're going, but then you're taking small planes within the destination? Are there luggage restrictions, especially for Africa, and some of those more remote areas? Do you need to figure out what that means? So look into all of these things as you're planning your trip. I have had clients come to me and plan trips, and then when we look at the airfare, they go, I can't do that, or I don't want to do that, or wow, that's a lot more expensive than I thought it was going to be. So these are things that you want to think about and consider before you actually put money down on deposit and start to understand what's involved in the trip that you're planning. And if you're going to do a driving trip, say you're, going into another country, make sure if you're driving that you know what side of the road you're driving on and that you can read this road signs. A lot of them might be in English or have English on them, but some may not. So make sure you check that out and you're aware of it so you don't get caught. And then know what your budget is, especially if you are going to work with a travel advisor. And any travel advisor is going to ask you, what's your budget for this trip? Give me some direction for what I want to plan, know how much you're willing to spend. And that helps with realistic expectations. But know what kind of experiences you want. We've talked about a lot of experiences today. What's your hot button? What makes you happy? What gets you excited? And if you're working with a travel planner, make sure you mention that to them so they can make sure that that's part of your itinerary. But the biggest thing I would say is leave time when you're planning your travel for unscripted moments. Those are some of the best moments of your trip. Um, for me, it has been we took a day when we were in the UK one time and took the train out to Windsor Castle to go explore. And we hadn't really planned what we were going to do. We just wanted to wing it. Well, turns out the Queen was there. And we were inside, and the bells went off. And I dragged my husband out of the artillery room where he was looking at suits of armor and all kinds of weaponry and said, "We're going outside." And there was Queen Elizabeth inspecting the troops and doing a ceremony. And we got to be able to sit in the background and watch that happen. Or when we were in Italy and we went into the countryside, and turns out we were there in the summertime, and the Pope just happened to be at Castle Gandolfo and came out on the balcony and started waving to people. These are the unscripted moments that you can't plan on, and you might just wander down a little alleyway and end up finding a gem that you have to take home, or having an encounter with a local and having an experience that you learn something that you didn't count on. And it just really makes the trip special. So leave that time in your itinerary planning. And if you're booking a really nice hotel, a 4 or 5 star hotel that you want to splurge on, make sure you leave time to be able to enjoy it. I once had a client who only booked 5 star hotels, but he had to be on the go all the time. So he never had time to enjoy the resort or the destination. So make sure you make time for that. And make friends with the bellman and the porter and the front desk people. The concierge is there to assist you, but the locals can give you the best local recommendation, the bartender, whatever it might be. Where do they like to go and eat to get a local meal? What do they like to do? Where's their favorite little store for buying whatever it is you're looking for? They can give you that information. And then if you are a person with special needs, there are accommodations that can be made for you while you're traveling out of the country. So if you have special dietary needs, I do. I know a lot of people do. Advise your cruise line and your tour operator. Let them know ahead of time. But then when you get there, make sure you talk to the maitre d' or to the chef or to the person in charge so they are aware of it. If you're going by land and you're going to be parking yourself in a city, check the listings around the restaurants around your lodging, and see if there's a special place that accommodates vegan diets or diabetic diets or gluten-free diets, whatever it might be. And if you are planning to go to a popular restaurant, make sure you book your reservations in advance because you won't get in last minute. So if there's a restaurant that you know of that you have always wanted to go to, make sure you're booking that well in advance. Now, I will say that little tea set down the bottom, that pink, was Peggy Portions. It's a little tea room in Belgravia in London. And when we went to the Chelsea Flower Show, we went wandering just the neighborhood to see what was around and find a little place for refreshment. And this was a place I had seen on a TV show one time that was featured. And we turned around the corner and looked, and voila, there it was. So we stood in line 20 minutes and waited to get a table and got our little fill of Peggy Portions. So these are some of the things that you want to keep in mind when you're planning. And packing. We were talking about packing this morning before we started the session. Overpacking is always something. some people just have an issue with. And I get it because I think I'm one of those people too. There are people who can travel with just a duffel bag or a backpack or a carry-on, and kudos and more power to you. But the thing to remember when you're packing is you can always do laundry in destination. Or if you forget something, you can always find a store and buy it. So make sure that you look at what you're packing, check it 3 times, and get rid of what you can't. Mix and match is a good thing. And make comfortable shoes and don't worry about the rest. Now, make sure you have name tags on all of your bags, including your carry-ons and your backpacks. And I'll tell you why. I had a client that was in Australia, lovely older couple. I told them to make sure they took their medication in their carry-on, and I advised that to everybody. They forgot the carry-on and they left it behind and they didn't know what to do. And I said, "Did you have a name tag on it?" "No, it's our carry-on," they said. "We never leave it." Well, they did. So we had to deal with that issue, and we did. But make sure you have all of your bags tagged, even backpacks, because if you put it down and you forget it somewhere, the airport authorities can find it and page you and get it to you. And the important thing is make sure you bring your medications and all of your documents and a change of clothes in your carry-on. I had this conversation with some clients last year that didn't travel very much. And for some reason, they were doing a Christmas markets cruise. And they got into Paris first, and then they were going over to Germany. And despite everything I said, he packed his medication in his checked bag, and they did not take a change of clothes in their carry-on, and the airline lost their bags. One of them never got their bags the entire trip. The other one got his bag 4 days into the trip. So remember, things can happen. You need to be prepared before you go. And your electronics should go in your carry-on. No batteries can be packed under the plane in your checked bag. So make sure you're taking care of that. And if you're bringing hair essentials, hair dryers, curling irons, if they're battery operated, you have to take them in the carry-on. You cannot put them in the checked bag. So plan for contingencies. If you get delayed, because we have had a lot of that lately, make sure you have flexibility in your schedule. If you're going on a cruise, go in a day early or 2 days early, to make sure you get there and you don't miss the ship or miss your tour. Make sure your pet sitter has your information and that they have blocked a day or two after your trip to be available in case you get delayed coming home. Understand that your destination, if it's a place that's subject to frequent strikes in service, like Italy or France or Greece, and they give notice. In Europe, they have to give notice if they're going to strike. You can check those notices ahead of time before you leave and be prepared if anything is going to interrupt your trip so you can make alternate plans. For your travel documents, make sure you have copies of all your travel documents with you in your carry-on. Vouchers, confirmations, ETAs. If you get a page that says it's approved, print it and take it with you. If you have travel insurance, take that confirmation page with you so you have the policy number and the phone number in case of emergency. Make sure you check your expiration date on your passport, your global entry, your TSA pre-check, and all of that is valid and up to date in case you need to do that before you go. And do you need local currency? Everybody takes credit cards these days, and we're moving towards a cashless society, but there are some places that still take cash in the world, or you might want to tip someone. So make sure that you have some local currency. And I always advise taking some with you before you go so that when you land, you're not having to run around and find an ATM or go get cash. You know you've got some money to get you started, and then you can always take out more if you need to. Now, phone service, check with your phone provider before you go and make sure you have global roaming and global data, or at least global service if you don't need data. Same thing, the couple that lost their luggage, I had told them to check and make sure they got their phones activated. They did not. So 2 days into the trip, no one can call them or reach out to them to help them with anything. And they didn't activate global roaming on their phones. So they did it, but it was a little late. So make sure you get that done before you go. And then health and safety, you know what you need. If you're going to an area where there are issues, make sure you are only drinking bottled water. Make sure you have a travel protection plan with you, even if you don't buy it for trip cancellation coverage because you don't want to spend the money. Make sure you have it for hospitalization because anything can, and I have seen it happen to so many people. Make sure you're covered while you're away so you can be treated and taken care of. And protect your investment. I do recommend travel protection plans because who knows, are you going to make sure that you're safe? And if anything happens, heaven forbid, that you have to cancel the trip before you go, there's a diagnosis with an immediate family member that keeps you from traveling, you want to be able to recoup that money unless you can afford to lose it or you get overseas. I had a client that was on a wonderful itinerary in Sicily and found out a family member had died partway through the trip, and she was the named executor for the estate. So we had to cancel that trip, bring her home, rebook her air, make other arrangements for everything. And they did have a travel protection plan, so they're getting back half of what they invested in that trip. And it paid for their new flights to be able to come home. So things can and do happen so that you're not running and screaming down the street, trying to figure out what are you going to do now that there's a problem. So make sure you take care of that. But if you are looking at doing these plans, make sure you talk to a professional about it and ask a lot of questions because there's a lot of these policies online, but make sure you understand what they cover. And if you're going to use your credit card coverage, talk to them, ask them questions because most of them do not cover pre-existing medical conditions as a reason for cancellation. And they might have a low, maybe $3,000 or $5,000 limit on what they will reimburse. So if you're buying a trip that's, seven, eight, 10, 12, $20,000, you want to make sure you can get reimbursed for the full thing. So of course, I have to make my pitch for why you work with a travel advisor, whether it's me or anybody else out there. If you work with a travel advisor, these are the main reasons why people do it. It's because of the personal relationship, because we get to know our clients and we understand what they want and what they need and how they like to travel and help take that burden off so you're not going through hundreds of websites and spending umpteen hours, even though some people say they like doing that. You want to make sure what you're doing is working with a vetted company that's financially sound and you're going to get what you want when you get there. Our expertise, our connections around the world, and the customer service that we are there for you before the trip, during the trip, and after the trip. That's what a professional will bring to you. In this day and age of AI, AI is good for doing research, but it's not good for booking because it's good for data compilation right now, but it pulls information off the internet. So it might pull something that's 10 years old and you don't know if it's true or not. And I've seen it with some clients already. They said, "Hey, I found this on AI." And I went, "Yeah." And it doesn't exist anymore. So make sure you're vetting that information if you're using AI and don't take it at its word. So with that, I would open up to questions if you have any, and I wish you a bon voyage on your next journey. I hope some of what we've gone over today has been helpful for you and might make you think about how you travel going forward.
That was amazing. Thank you so much.